Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining my session. My name is Arun, and today we'll be focusing on Alteryx part. Alteryx is a very powerful tool which is designed to unleash the power of the data. It provides a very intuitive and very user-friendly environment for analysts and data scientists to prepare the data, to blend it, and analyze it with both efficiency and speed. With Alteryx, you can unlock valuable insights, make data-driven decisions, and drive business success. In this session, we will going to have a very quick introduction of Alteryx, its user interface, and we are also going through a lot of tools and technologies and functionalities available in the Alteryx itself. And then we also have not one, not two, but four case studies from level one to level three to all our basic level. In the part two, we are going to have some intermediate case studies, and in the part three, we are going to have the expert level case studies. So let us see what Alteryx can do for us. Alteryx is such a tool that it actually simplifies the entire process of data preparation, data manipulation, and data transformation. It also cleans the data within a few seconds, and it helps you in creating the entire ETL framework within a few minutes of time. It also have various data blending capabilities. It can connect with almost everything like SQL, Azure, Tableau dataset even, and also with CSV files, Excel files, lying on a shared drive, OneDrive, or Google. It also have advanced analytical jobs, and it can also do your machine learning jobs. It also has a interactive visualization and reporting view where you can build different type of visualizations, like in a graph, or in a map, or a bar chart, or a column chart, etc. Hey guys, so this is the Alteryx user interface, and just like any other application, we have the file edit and view and options and help menu at the top. Just below the menu bar, we have the tool palette where we have buttons like favorites, recommended, join, transform, and which upon click will give you the list of tools which are actually available inside them. So when I click on favorites, it will showing me the all the list of tools which we can use in day-to-day activities, be it transformation or manipulation. Like we all need to input our data, and then we also need to uh, generate an output, data cleansing, filtering, formula, select. So these are the most used ones. Then we have a few buttons like join where we can use to play with the data like joining, merging, appending the data with multiple sources, or finding or replacing a particular text within a statement. And then we have a lot of other palettes also. Just below the tool palette, we have the configuration bar on the left hand side, which have a few options like canvas, workflow, runtime, and events. Within Canvas, we are able to decide whether we want to create a horizontal workflow or a vertical workflow. Then we can also show or hide the annotations. We can see the connection progress also if you want. And inside the workflow, we get a few options like do you want to create a standard workflow or an analytical app or a macro. If I click on the run type, it actually shows me what kind of memory or how much memory I'm using for running this entire workflow. I can create the temporary files using the global default or in a specific folder also. I can also limit the number of conversion errors and a few more options that I have, and just make sure that the EMP engine is actually always on. It really helps you in running your workflow twice or three times faster. Then just below the workflow, we can also have one more section. We can click on view and click on overview. So many times like we end up creating a huge workflow which is not able to fit on a single screen, but we still want to like have an overview of each and everything which is present on this entire workflow. So we can add the overview from the menu bar and it be displayed on the left hand side, on the left, right, on the left side corner, bottom corner. Then we have workflow designer where we actually work on the data and design in such a way that we are able to understand it. And as you can see on the screen, we have a workflow which is designed from the left hand side and it is actually proceeding forward to the right hand side. The first one is the input tool, and then we have select tool, data cleansing tool, the filters, and the formula, and then we have the join. So it is actually a horizontal workflow. And if I run this, it will start showing me the output in the section which is just below this one. Like I have 9 fields, and these 9 fields have 8,716 records. I can use the scroll bar which is given on the right hand side, and I can see the data if I want. Now, many of times you will find that there are a lot of records in Alteryx in the backend, but the Alteryx is actually showing a very limited number of records. This is actually to save some memory. So Alteryx always shows some limited number of records. If you want to know how many reports are there in total, you can use the browse tool, which is available in the favorite section. It will really help you in understanding quite a good number of things. We will discuss all these tools and functionalities in the case studies, and there is actually one more way of doing the entire uh, knowledge sharing part. So if I click on browse, I can click on this open example. When I click on open example, it will open an example for me, and I can easily go through the entire content on my own and understand what is the tool functionality, how is it supposed to work, and what are the tools, what are the tips and tricks for using this tool, and what are the best practices. Even if I click on like join, it will open a join example for me, and it will tell me all the tools and tips and tricks for doing the entire formatting or following the rules as per the joining rules. And it will also tell me the best practices. Like the first step is to run the workflow, the second is to select a tool to view its output, the third one is select the left join or right join or inner join. So we are going to discuss all of these tools, most of these tools actually, in the case studies. Okay, so I think we can discuss a few of these tools which are under the favorite section because we are going to use them a lot in our case studies as well. So let us discuss them one by one. The first one is browse tool. I'm clicking on the open example. So whenever we are sourcing our data, be it any source, Excel file, CSV file, or YXDB format, which is an Alteryx file, we can look at the entire column structure or data structure or even the entire data one by one using the results section, or we can use the browse tool also. When I click on run, the browse tool will help me in understanding what kind of data do I have in these columns. Like in date, how many dates do we have? In time, and zip code, like we have 62 plus these many zip codes. Then inside the location or street name or the number of persons killed, and I can see the entire data in just one go. I can also take some help from the result section, which is the output section on just below the workflow designer. But it will take some time for me to digest the entire information. Just then, that's where the browse tool actually helps the person in having a quick walkthrough of the entire data within a few seconds. The next one that we have is the input tool, which is same as this one. So in the input tool, we can source our data from multiple sources, like from Excel files or CSV files or ClickSense, QuickSight, OneDrive, and like in Athena, we also have an option for Athena and Aurora, Redshift, and Google Drives or Snowflake. And then we also have a few options from UiPath and Tableau Hyperdata Access files. The next one that we have is the output. So let us assume that we we have a file which is in YXDB format and we want to convert into a CSV file. All we have to do is we have to connect the input node to the output, and inside the output we just need to click on the output tool, and then we have to set up a connection, We can select the CSV file since we want to save this file into a CSV format. So all I need to do is go to the data sources, look for the CSV format. Where did it go? So CSV format, here it is. So if I click on the CSV format, it will ask me where do I want to save my entire data. So I want to save my data here, like let's say test. Click on save. Now I'm clicking on the run and my output has been saved into a CSV format, as you can see. So the next one that we have is data cleansing. And I'm going to have one more example for data cleansing. So, just like in the previous session, we discussed about that when we click on the open example, it actually tells us the entire step and also tells us the tips and tricks and all the best practices for running that particular tool. Like for data cleansing, you should always replace the nulls and numerical columns. Like nulls has to be replaced in all the string columns, string-based columns, and numeric columns they should not be any nulls, and it should be replaced with zeros. And then we also have to fix common issues in text columns. So there could be multiple issues in the text columns, and we can use the help of data cleansing tool. Like if I click on this one, I can see that I'm replacing the blanks, and then I'm replacing or removing the leading and trailing white spaces. If I click on the next one, I'm removing unwanted characters from the text space, and for that, I'm clicking on this letter. It will remove the unwanted characters from this particular file. And if I click on standard capitalization, it will actually reformat the entire thing and into an uppercase, uh, and I can also do it in a lowercase or title case based on the requirement. The next one that we have is a filter button. So let me use another example for filter. So let's suppose that we have an input file which has data on first name, last name, gender. I want to see the male gender only inside the data, or let's say female data only. So I should have only one record, right? If I use the filter tool and I connect the dots here, and inside the filter, I select the column as gender and I say F, which is for female, and run this query. On the true button, like on the filter, it always gives us the true and the false. So if I click on the true, it will give me the female gender because in this is what I have mentioned in my filter condition query, right? Similarly, we can have a lot of other examples for using the filter, and we can have a few more options like is null, is not null, is empty or is not empty, does not contain a particular text, or comes after this, or contains, or comes before. After the filter, we have a tool for formula, and the formula actually works in a similar way, just like in Excel. So most of the formulas are actually same, just like we have in Excel, like string, find, match, concatenate, or sum. Like I'm creating, in order to create a new column, I just need to drag the formula in front of the input source or the last step of my workflow. So here I'm creating a new column based record source, and I'm writing the value as or the text as Alteryx sample data. In the second example, I'm using an if and else condition, and I'm creating a new column as region, and I'm defining the condition as if latitude is more than 39.7, then it should be north, else it should be south. The next condition actually new modified column, which says that if the title case is given in city, change the case to like the title, and I should create a new column. I can also modify the existing columns. I just need to click on this drop down and it will start modifying that particular column itself. Then for selecting the multiple columns, I do get these options to create multiple formulas. Complex formulas, like inside just one formula, I can use multiple uh, parts. Like here, I'm actually dividing these spends by visits, and then I'm also rounding it up to in order to calculate the average spend per visit. Then we have complex formula for multiple steps. Like in the first part, I'm calculating the average spend per visit. In the second step, I'm calculating the average spend per visit again. But here, I'm actually taking a round off. The next is that we have is sample. So let me open an example for the sample. So inside the sample, we have a lot of other options. Like first one that we have is uh, we can take the first n rows or last n rows or skip first n rows or first every n rows, or we can also define the number of rows that we want to pick, and then we can also use the group by function here. And the idea of sample using sample tool is actually to make work to build Ultrax workflows faster. Let us suppose that you have the data in GBs or terabytes of data, not actually terabytes. And Alteryx will not be able to run the terabytes of information, but I have actually worked with 6 GBs or 7 GBs of data within Alteryx, and it works very good. But in order to build Alteryx logics and calculation faster, all you need to do is you have to build your workflow on a sample data set. Let's say 1,000 number of rows or 10,000 number of rows, because in that way you will be able to define your logics, test it, and then you can since the vertex won't take much time in calculating things because we are only using sample data here, it will really help you in building out in the entire ETL pipeline very fast. The next one that we have is a select tool. Inside using the select tool, we actually rename the different columns that we have. We can also change their order, and then we can also change their data types. The type of data set, the data types that we have in Alteryx is Boolean, byte, integer 16, 32, fixed decimals, floating, and then double string, VW string. Each one of these data types have a certain character limit, so that should be kept in mind while using these data types. The most ones that I use is the VW strings and integer 64 or on float sometimes and double. The next one that we have is a sorting. I think it is very easy and it is actually self-explanatory. And the next one is that we have is join, union, text to columns. Text to columns is something that you have to use whenever you want to cross tab, or we want to you change rows into columns or columns into rows or transpose the data, right? Summarize is actually something which we use to just like in Excel we have a pivot function. In Alteryx we have a summarize function. So I'm using a summarize function and I'm dropping it in front of the input tool. And let us run the query. Let us define some logic inside the summarize. So I have the visit number of visits maybe that I can use, or I can also use the spend. So let me see how many people are actually spending in different cities. So I'm taking a group by of cities, and I'm seeing and I'm taking the sum of the spend, and the actual output that it will give me is the spend in the different cities. When I click on run and when I click on this right hand side dot, it actually gives me the city and the sum of the and then its spends. The next one that we have is the comment, which we can use like the text that you can see in the on the screen is actually built using the comment. I can easily change the background color or text alignment or background images using the comment tool. Then we have recommended ones, a few recommended ones like comment or the text input or input tools. In Join, we have a few more, and we are going to discuss all of, like I think most of them, 80% or 70% of them, except the data science ones. Once we are like once we have already completed the course of data science, I think we will be in a better position to learn to machine learning and text mining and computer vision related tool palettes. For now, uh, I think we will be very limited to favorites recommended in and out preparation, join, transform, maybe some parts of documentation or building some macros inside our tracks. In the next section, we will be discussing the case studies. Let us go through the first case study now. The first case study is about who turned off my lights. So the level of this case study is actually very basic. I will treat it like basic level 1. And in the gray section, you can see the problem statement. The power outages can be very quite noticeable and can disrupt our reliance on steady supply of electricity. While we typically associate service disruptions with severe weather conditions or natural disasters, it is very interesting to discover that these outages can also be attributed to our adorable little animal friends. In the given dataset, we have to find out how many of these outages in the provided dataset can be attributed to animals. Second, we also have to provide a list of animals who are actually causing these outages in different countries, in different cities maybe, along with the counts of events in decreasing order. Now we also have a small hint here, like to answer these questions, you can refer to the operator field in the dataset, which contains the name of animals involved. Additionally, utilize the information from the article title field to replace the placeholder animal with the specific animal names. Okay, let us see the dataset now. So this is the input, and I'm clicking on the right hand side node, and I'm running this query. Once I run this query, I will be able to see the entire dataset in the resultant section. So just like the hint mentions, we have an article title and we have an operator also. Now the second part of the hint says that we have to replace the placeholder term animal with a specific animal name. We are talking about these records. We have to replace the word animal with a specific animal names like the bat, or if I talk about these records, then we have to replace the word animal by beaver here or beaver here again. And here we have also have to replace the word animal by beaver. Okay. So this is something that we need to do using this input. Okay. So let us see the approach. What approach can we use in order to find out the solution? So for the first one, we need a list of the animals, right? Like for the second one, we just need a list of the animals and the count of all the outages in decreasing order. Now I can't go ahead and simply take a unique of all these uh, and the operatives, the animals, because we have to replace the word animal here, right? So our first focus will be on to replace this word animal with a specific animal name. And for that, we will have to find and replace the word bat. We have to search for the entire line, like where exactly do we have the word, the specific animal name. Like in this line, we have the specific animal name in the bat on the left hand side. Here we have on the right hand side. It could be possible that we sometimes might have the word somewhere in the middle. So we have to find a solution in such a way that uh, it actually works in all the scenarios and in all the situations. So first of all, we are going to find out the unique list of animals that we have, right? So that we are able to search for these unique animals within these articles or article titles, so that we can extract them and replace the word animal here, right? So let's do it. So first step is to find the unique. So I'm going to search for the unique record, and I'm going to connect the input tool with the unique, and I will take a unique of the operatives because operatives is the column where I have the list of the animals, right? Now I'll click on run. When I click on run, it gives me the when I click on the run and I'll click on this unique button here, it gives me the unique list of the operatives. Since the rest of the columns are not required for now, I will just delete them. So for deleting these rest of the columns, I'm going to use the select column. And to delete these columns, I just need to uncheck the columns from here. Operative is something that we need, so I'm not going to uncheck it. Now we click on run. Let us see the output by clicking on the right hand side node of the select button. So now do we have a list of the animals which are causing these outages. But please notice that the first row we have the word animal which we have to replace. So we are going to skip it so that we have the entire list of uh, animal names, right? So for skipping it, we can use simple and we can do like skip first n rows, and I'm skipping the first row. When I click on run, it will skip the first row, and I click on the right hand side of the skip first row tool, and it has actually skipped the first row. So we have around like 29 animals which are causing these power outages. Now what we will do is we will try to find out if these words are existing in those article titles, and if yes, then we will be replacing them with these specific names. So for doing that, we need a filter button, right? So I'm going to connect the input button with the filter tool, the input tool with the filter tool. So like most of the records are actually correct. So we just need to find and replace in specific records only. And in order to filter out those specific records, we are using the filter tool. We are going to filter the operative column, which is going to be equal to animal. Let us run. When I click on run and when I click on the T, which is true, it is going to show me like out of 402 records. When I click on the T, it shows me that 93 records are not correct and we have to replace the word animal with this specific animal name. If I click on false, it shows me like 309 records are correct and I don't have to do anything with them as of now. So let us replace the word animal now, and for replacing the word, we are going to use find and replace. So we are going to use find and replace, right? So in order to better understand the find and replace, I will open one example for you. So the find and replace tool actually looks for any portion of the string that matches the value of an incoming lookup list. Like in this case, if I run it, we have in the first input, we have a few columns like transaction ID, amount, account holder. In the second one, we are actually trying to replace the word in replacement is the AND word. Like CEO, we are replacing it with company. CMPAY, we are replacing it with company again. DEPT is replaced by department. Now, this is the lookup list, right? So, the second part is actually the lookup list. The first part is actually the place where we are trying to find that particular word. So since we are trying to find the word in this list, this is going to be connected with the F part, which is find. And since we are going to use the lookup as the replacement, we are going to connect it with the R part. So this is how the find and replace function work in Alteryx. Now we can find the word in the beginning of the field, in the entire field, or any part of the field, and we can also use like case sensitive find or match whole word, and we have to find within a particular field. So in this case, we have to find that word like company or department or and person sign in the account holder field, right? So in find within field account holder, we are going to select that field only, and for replacement, we are going to use the word replacement, right? And then, do we want to replace the found text with the value in the same column or the different column, or do we want to create another column? So we want to create a new column, right? So we can actually do that by using this functionality. Now let us go back to our case study. In the first set of the data, we were able to find the unique list of entire animals, right? So this is going to be our lookup list. In the second one, we have the article title. We are actually looking for the words which are we need to extract and create another column, right? Or we can also uh, extract these words like bat, beaver, etc., and we can replace within the existing column of operative. Since we have to find the words here, we are going to connect this list with the F, and the list that we are going to use as a VLOOKUP or lookup list, we are going to connect with the replace. When I click on the find and button, we have to find the word in, and that word can actually present in left hand side and at the end of the field or any part of the field. So let us choose any part of the field, and we have to find the that word in within the article title, right? So we are going to select article title, and then we have to find the value of operative. So operative is the field where we have the unique list of all the animals. And if we take one example, like we have a animal which is bat, and B is capital here. But if we look at this information, we also have a few words which are appearing like these, like BATS, bats, and B is actually small. So we are going to use case insertive find in this case, and we want to create an additional column. So I'm going to click here to create an additional column for the operatives. Now let us run this query and let's see what result Alteryx is going to give us. So it has actually find the word bad using the lookup list, and in the operative to column, it is actually giving us the required result. So what do we need to do next is we are going to delete the previous set of columns that we don't need now, and we can use the operative tool as our main column. We are going to use the select tool again. Using the select tool, I'm going to delete the operative column, and I'm going to rename the operative tool as operative. Now, if I run the query, it will give us the required number of columns, right? But this is the only information where we have fixed the data, right? We already had another data set where the information was actually appearing correct. So let us append both the informations in just one view, and we will be in a position to move on to the second part of the question, in, like which is to find out the number of outages caused by these animals. So for appending, we can use the union, but for union, we need to have actually, uh, I think we have a few columns like article title, city, pronouns, province, country, operative, and in the second set of information in the false part of the filter, we have similar columns, so we can use the union for sure. Now when I click on run, the number of records that we have is again 402, and this time we have the correct operative. Let us move to the next part, which is finding the answer to the second, both the questions actually. The number of autogenesis events in the provided data set can be attributed to animals. Okay, where to find that number? So I'm using a summarize tool, and let us find that number. So if I do a group by of operatives and take a count also, and click on run, and the summarize right hand side node shows me that the bat has actually posed 6 events, elephant has caused 4 events, so slug has got 4. Now, in order to sort this entire information, we can use the sort tool using the search menu. So let us sort the information now. So sorting can be done based on the columns, any of the columns. So I'm doing the sorting on based on the second column, which is the count, and we are doing it in the decreasing order. Now, when I run this entire query, we get both the results. So raccoon is the first animal which is actually causing most of the outages in the entire area, and being followed by snake and rat. This is actually making sense. So I think we have covered both the answers now. I would request you to go back to this entire query in again, and entire problem statement and the solution again in your free time, and we can move to the next case study now. The next case study that we have on Alteryx is regarding an ETL process that you have to build. Now, the dataset that we have received is from a financial institution which follows a specific format, and we have to automate the entire ETL process for a BI tool. The level for this case study is actually basic level, but level 2. The dataset that we have received is in this format. Let me run this query. So the data that we have received from the financial institution is actually in this format. Like the first row and the first cell actually contains the date. The second row doesn't contain anything, and we probably have to remove it. The third, I think it contains the subheaders, and these are the columns of F6, F7, and F8. As you can see, like the data in these columns is not present, so we can probably remove them. Then in the first one, we see some numbers and see some text. So what I think is these are the values for this taxable A shares section. And for these, I think this should be the subheader or subsection or whatever it is. And so the final output, we might need to develop something like this. Like we need a date column, right? So we need to replicate this particular date in front of each and every record. And then for these records, I think we should have another column where we should be able to show taxable A shares in front of each of these records. And then we should have another set of columns for fund, first day, first month, 3 months, YTD, and first years, and so on. So we can start solutioning the entire exercise by extracting the date first. So for extracting the date, I'm going to use the sample function. So I just need the first record. So I'm going to click on first end rows, and I just need the first one. And I don't need the other columns, right? So I'm going to use the select column, and I'm going to unselect each and every column except the first one. When I click on run, I should have only one value, and that should be our date. Yes. Now we have to extract the date part, right? So just like in Excel, we can use like different line functions, find function, match function, and we can extract the data in Excel. In Alteryx also, we can use the formula function. So I'm going to drag the formula function in front of the select function, the select two actually, and then we can count actually how many number of words do we have in front of the date, because the file actually follows a systematic process, or the data or structure of the entire file is not going to change every month or every week. In case it does, then you guys probably have to think in a different direction. But right now, we actually have the data set which is not going to change for any of the months or years or dates. So we have like one, two, three, four, five words in rank, and then it is a space. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 words which we have to remove in order to extract the entire date, right? So in order to do so, I'm going to use the formula function. So I've already dragged the tool for formula in front of the select tool, and I'm going to create another column, let's say the date column, and I'm going to use the function, the formula for substring, which returns the substring of substring starting at the start, stopping after land, and if provided. So let us do it. String. I know that we all know the string. So we have four options here. Like the first one is regarding which formula do we want to use. In the second one, we can use the existing columns. In the third one, we can explore a few more formulas. And fourth one is for saving. So here we should have a string, right? So this is our string which we want to utilize in order to extract the date. Second one is we already counted the number of words that we want to remove. So the start should be 12. Length. Now we know the length, right? That we want to extract. Now the length would be length of the string, right? And then it should be minus 12 because we have to extract the date part only and not the words. And we're just going to click on run and it should be able to extract the date for us. And here we go. Now we do have the date. Now we can proceed ahead with formatting the rest of the information. The next case study, since we already got the date now, the next step that we should do is we should promote the third row as the header. And for doing that, we can again use the sample tool. Now I'm connecting the input with the sample tool and I will skip the first n rows. So in this case, we need to skip the first two rows, right? And if I run this entire workflow, then I can see that my first two rows have been skipped. Now I don't need these columns, so let us remove them by dragging the select column again. And let us unselect the F6, F7, and F8. Okay, now let us run the workflow again. Okay, my unnecessary columns have been removed. Now I need to promote the headers. So for promoting the headers, we are going to use dynamic rename. So dynamic rename actually helps in picking up the subheaders or doing some transformation based on the number of different number of formulas or different formulas or different rows. It can also add prefix and suffix or remove the prefix and suffix using some formulas. So in this case, we need to pick the row, uh, first row, and we need to promote it as a header. So we are going to use take fill names from the first row of data. So when we do that, and when we run the query and the workflow, we can see that our first row has been promoted as the headers. Now, the next step that we need to take is we have to create another column which will show the subsections. Like for these many records, it should show a subsection of taxable A shares. For these reports, it should be able to show here taxable R6 shares, right? So in order to do that, we need a logic, we need a formula, and that formula should be based on something like this. Like if fund is null, then we can pick the value from here, and if the value like the fund value is not null, that means it has some value like AFBLI, then we can pick the subsection from the previous row because previous row was null and we already picked the right string using our logic of if fund is null, then we are picking the value from TNA month and column. Now let us define the logic. So whenever we are required to use row-based calculations or row-based formulas, we generally do not use the formula tool which is available in the favorites. We use multi-row formula. So I'm just dragging the multi-row formula and connecting it with the dynamic rename. And as you can see, I have uh, a few options on the left hand side. So I want to create a new field named subsection, and it is going to be a string, and we are going to write the expression for it. So if, based on our logic that we discussed, if is empty, fund, and fund has to be in the parenthesis, I mean the close bracket, sorry. If fund is empty, then we are picking the value from this column, right? So just click on this column, copy it and paste it, and then put the brackets again. This is the first part of the condition. Wherever the fund is null, we are picking the value from here. And let us define the else condition now. So the else condition would be if the value is not null, that it means it has some value. Like in this case, it has a hyphen fbli. So we need to pick the string from the previous row. So because the previous row is something that we have already fixed, right? So else we are doing row minus one from uh, subsection, because subsection is already fixed by us, right? Now let us try to run this workflow. It gives some error. Okay. Okay. I forgot to actually close the if statement. Here we go. Now, as you can see, we are able to get the subsection for each and every row, right? Now we have to remove the blank or the null values, right? And for doing that, we can use the filter option, and we're going to filter the funds. We're going to filter the funds wherever it is not empty. And here we go. Now we have the entire format and the subsection also. We just need the date, right? We need a column for showing the dates. So for doing that, what we can do is we can use append field option. Now append field option actually has two nodes, which is T and S. So if you're trying to use a small part of any data and you want to replicate it in a bigger set of data, then you should connect the S part with the small part, and the bigger part of the data should be connected with T. So T is basically your target, and S is basically the sample that you are actually trying to replicate in the bigger data set. So when you click on this append tool, what we need to do here is uh, since we have actually two columns here, so let us get rid of one of the columns which is not required. So this is something that we do not require, and we click on done now. So as you can see, everything seems okay now. We also got the date. We also got the subsection. There are no blank columns and or empty columns, and we do not have any null values in the month end also. So this is the final format that the client can use in order to build their entire visualization uh, data. And this, since this is a daily file, we can append it on a daily basis. And we also have a date column to identify which data pertains to which date. So I think it is very helpful, and as you know, that it hardly took us like 10 to 15 minutes of time in order to do the entire cleaning or transforming the data. So I think Vortex is very powerful when it comes to transforming the data and creating ETL frameworks for any PA tool. Hey guys, now we have reached to the case study 3, which is basic level 3 on drill analysis. And this is something which I want to give to you as a part of the assignments, and you have to complete it by next Sunday. So the next Sunday is actually on 28th. On 28th, we are going to start with the intermediate level, and before Sunday, actually, you have to submit your assignments. Only those people who will be submitting the assignments, I will be taking their sessions. And in case of any queries or any doubts, please feel free to reach out to me. So let us discuss the case study now. So this is the data on some of the oil rigs. So oil rigs are basically the large ships which take out oil from the sea, and they do a lot of drilling and do a lot of circulating the pipes, right? So each month we are given some data on amount of time a rig is either circulating or drilling. We have to find the amount of the circulating number of hours or rotating number of hours for each installation of a top drive wash pipe. Now these big ships actually have a very large or very big top drive wash pipes, which they have to replace every midnight. So as you can see in the assume the following section, the like let us assume that today is 1st of July 2019, and changes the wash pipes are actually changed uh, uh, on a midnight. So the separating and rotating times for that day matching the changeout are completely applied to the newly installed wash pipe. The final answer should include the following. For each installed wash pipe, we have to determine the changeout date. Okay, and for determining the total circulating and rotating times for each wash pipe installation, including all days from installation date to changeout. So, if let us assume that there was an installation of certain wash pipe on a specific date, let us assume that it was there for around 2 days. So, in 2 days of time, how many hours did it circulate and how many hours did it rotate? And the third one is we have to annotate for each particular wash pipe installation period whether the wash pipe was actually replaced or currently remains installed. So the data that we have is actually on the installations. Let me run it again. Yep. Now the data that we have is on the installations. So we have the rig IDs, installation dates, and the size and manufacturer. Something that you can ignore. So we only need the rig and installation date. In the rig and installation date, as you can see that we do not have a remove date because the changes are actually occurring at a midnight. You have to assume that whenever there was a installation date of a new pipe, so let us assume that today is 5th of January and there was a new installed pipe. So we can easily assume that the last pipe was actually removed today because today is also the day we are installing the new pipe. So down below we have the data of different months where we have different flags like whether the rig is actually on the rotation mode or in circulation mode right now. It can also do both rotation and circulating at the same time. And the time is actually given at in the fourth or fifth column, which is elapsed time hours. We also have a start date time. Okay, so this is the requirement, and the solution that I am seeking for is like the output should be something like this. Like we have a rig, manufacturer, size, installation date. Remove date is something that we have to find using any of the formulas which we have already discussed, and then we have to find out the total number of rotating hours and circulating hours. And then the third part was actually on the basis of we needed to create a column to ascertain that whether the rig the wash pipe actually has been replaced for that particular rig and on that particular date. And if it is not, then we have to show the string as currently installed. Do reach out to me in case you face any issues or any queries. I will be expecting a lot of response from you. Thank you guys. Bye bye.